The death of Pope Francis on April 21, 2025, marked the end of a transformative and often polarizing era for the Catholic Church. At 88 years old, he passed away due to a cerebral stroke, compounded by years of chronic health conditions, including respiratory ailments and diabetes. His final moments were reportedly peaceful, spent in his Vatican residence, Casa Santa Marta, where he thanked a longtime health aide in a soft whisper before slipping away. What followed was a momentous global tribute to a pontiff who had both challenged and renewed the Church in profound ways. On April 23, Pope Francis' body was transported from his residence to St. Peter's Basilica in a solemn and deeply symbolic procession. The Vatican organized a traditional cortege that included a choir chanting in Latin, the Swiss Guard in full ceremonial attire, and numerous high-ranking church officials, including cardinals and priests. The scene in St. Peter's Square was powerful. More than 20,000 mourners had gathered by dawn, united in a quiet, collective grief, many clasping rosaries or photos of the Pope. Applause broke out gently as his casket arrived, a customary Italian gesture of reverence and respect for the dead. At precisely 11 a.m., the doors of St. Peter's Basilica were opened to the public. Pope Francis' body lay in an open casket, dressed in simple liturgical vestments, in keeping with his lifelong message of humility and service. Unlike many popes before him, he had asked for a modest funeral, resisting the pomp often associated with papal burials. In fact, in one of his final interviews, he expressed a personal connection with the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore and requested to be buried there instead of beneath St. Peter's, a break in tradition not seen since Pope Leo XIII in 1903. This wish will be fulfilled on April 26, when his body will be interred in the crypt of Santa Maria Maggiore, where he had often prayed before and after major trips during his papacy. The Basilica has remained open from early morning until midnight each day for mourners to pass through and pay their respects. Vatican officials anticipate that over 200,000 people will file past his body during the three-day lying in state. Lines have stretched around the Vatican's massive square, filled with pilgrims from every corner of the globe. From Latin America to the Philippines, from Italy to the United States, the turnout reflects not just devotion, but a sense of personal loss. Many wept openly, whispering prayers or simply standing in silence before the casket. Despite controversies and critiques during his tenure, Pope Francis managed to inspire a rare emotional intimacy among his followers, perhaps more than any pope in recent memory. On Saturday, April 26, a funeral mass will be held in St. Peter's Square, expected to draw a crowd exceeding that of Pope John Paul II's funeral in 2005. Over 200 heads of state, religious leaders, and diplomats have confirmed their attendance. U.S. President Donald Trump, along with Prince William representing the British royal family, will be present. Notably absent is U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance, who is currently on a diplomatic visit to India. World leaders from across Latin America, the European Union, Africa, and Asia are also set to attend, a testament to France's global impact that transcended religious boundaries. Leaders of other faiths, including prominent Muslim clerics and Jewish rabbis, have issued statements of condolence, underscoring France's decades-long commitment to interfaith dialogue. Pope Francis' death also triggers a new phase for the Vatican, the sede vacante, the period between popes. The College of Cardinals is now converging in Rome, and the conclave to elect the next pope is expected to begin by May 6. Though the selection is shrouded in secrecy, speculation is rampant. Names like Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the Vatican Secretary of State, and Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, a Filipino prelate and prominent voice in global Catholicism, are often mentioned. Until a new pope is chosen, Cardinal Kevin Farrell is managing day-to-day church operations. During his 12-year papacy, Francis was a pope of firsts, the first Jesuit pope, the first from the Americas, and the first to take the name Francis, inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi. His reign was marked by progressive stances on climate change, economic inequality, and immigration. He took on corruption within the Vatican Bank, cracked down on clergy sexual abuse, and controversially called for more inclusion of LGBTQ+ people within the Church. His critics saw him as too lenient or unorthodox. His supporters viewed him as a visionary reformer trying to steer a 2,000-year-old institution into the 21st century. In accordance with tradition, coins commemorating each year of his papacy were placed in his coffin. These were accompanied by a brief Latin document summarizing the key events of his time as pope, a Vatican custom called the Rogito. This document highlights landmark events such as his encyclical Laudato Si', his groundbreaking 2016 visit to Cuba and the U.S., and his diplomatic outreach to China. What may not be documented in gold or Latin, however, is the cultural and emotional legacy he leaves behind. As the basilica's incense wafts above the altar and choirs sing solemn hymns, the Vatican is steeped in a profound mixture of grief, awe, and anticipation. Mourners, from elderly cardinals to young students, have all gathered in quiet reflection. A nun from Buenos Aires clutched a small Argentine flag as she knelt in prayer beside the casket. A group of youth from Cameroon held hands and sang softly as they passed. In Taiwan, where Catholics make up a small minority, a vigil was held outside the local cathedral. In the Philippines, thousands gathered in Manila's Luneta Park to hold a candlelit mass in his memory. Across continents and cultures, Francis' death has touched millions. Even in death, Pope Francis remains a figure of unity and dialogue. The complexities of his legacy will be debated for years. Was he a revolutionary or a compromiser? Did he change the Church or simply open its doors wider? Yet in these 3 days of mourning, what's undeniable is the love and reverence felt by so many for a man who chose to lead with compassion and simplicity. His final wish, to be buried not in gold or marble but in the humble earth of a Roman basilica, perhaps best sums up his life's mission: to walk with the people, not above them.